Hey Daydreamers! So I am back today, only a week late, with my August wrap up. I'm actually really impressed. I managed to read 6 books in August, which I didn't think I had done, and I certainly don't think I'm going to be able to do it in September, as I'm in a bit of a reading slump, which is unfortunate. But let's show you the books that I read and a little bit about what I thought of each of them. So first up we have Loveless by Alice Oseman. This book is a really difficult thing for me to talk about because personally it was one of the most personal reads I've ever read. I felt like I was the main character for a lot of it. A lot of her aspects were like me, and it made me feel like I wasn't alone. And at the same time there was a lot of bad rep in it and a few issues I had with the ending, so it was like a so-so read, but I gave it 4 stars in the end because just I felt like my identity was real and I'm not a weirdo for thinking and feeling the way I do. So that's always something that you definitely want in a book. So and I love Alice anyway, so yes, I would definitely recommend it, especially if you're on the asexual spectrum or know someone who is, because it definitely explains that a little bit better. But do be warned that it's not very sex positive, so it's very sort of sex frightened, which some ace are, which is fine, but not every ace person is, so that's just something to be aware of if you are an ace person going into it or know someone who is and isn't that way. This is just obviously one point of view from the spectrum, and the whole idea of asexuality is it is an entire spectrum. So yeah, that was Loveless by Alice Oseman. The second book I read was Boy Queen by George Lester, and this was my favourite book of the entire month. It is just a wonderful read. Like, it's emotional and there are parts where I was like heartbroken, but it's just light-hearted fun. It's about a boy who is finding himself and understanding himself and just turns into the most amazing boy queen, and just this was the feel-good light-hearted read that I needed at the time. And yeah, I would just highly recommend this book to anyone who wants just a fun, easygoing but also quite dark book that just will bring a smile to your face and probably tears too. Yeah, highly recommend this one. The third book I read is Shadow and Bone by Leigh Bardugo, and this was actually a reread for me, but I had not read it since it first came out, I think, other than, well, it wasn't when it first came out because I didn't read when it was called The Gathering Dark, but fairly since it's been a couple of years basically, and so I didn't really remember any of the story other than a certain few bits here and there, and so it was really good to sort of get back into the world. I did actually listen to it on audiobook this time, and I really enjoyed the audiobook and would definitely recommend it, especially with some of like the places and things. I think it sounds really cool how it's pronounced. Obviously I hope the audiobook pronounces it correctly, but who knows. Yeah, just really enjoyed this story again and would recommend it. The fourth book I finished in August was The Archived by Victoria Schwab. Now, if you've been watching this for a while, you should know that I actually started this in like July, I think, maybe even June. I've been reading it for a while, but not because it's bad, but just because other things crop up. But it was incredible. I really, really enjoyed it. I love Victoria Schwab, if you haven't noticed that already, and this story is just really imaginative and exciting, and I definitely want to know what's going to happen in the next book, so I'll be picking that one up. I do know that it's like an unfinished trilogy, so like I'm gonna want to read the non-published third book, but I think I want to get back into this world and with these characters and just see a little bit more about it. So yeah, I'm definitely interested in carrying this on, and I really enjoyed this and would definitely recommend it. The fifth book I read in August was Let's Talk About Love by Kann, and this was another book that I read for a spec August and just absolutely loved it. It hit me in the feels within like the first chapter. I was basically crying and had to put the book down because it hits quite close to home, and my thoughts were just like, I can't deal with this. There are, again, aspects in this one that I didn't really enjoy, just as the same as Loveless, and in this one it's to do with the friends and some of the reactions of the friends. But aside from that, it's just a really cute, lovely, heartwarming story, and it ends really lovely, and I couldn't put it down. I read it really, really quickly, and it was just everything that I needed it to be, and I just really love the asexual rep in this as well. So yeah, definitely recommend this one if you haven't already read it. Last but certainly not least, the final book that I read in August was Siege and Storm by Leigh Bardugo. This one I didn't enjoy as much as the first one, but it was the first time I've read it because I've actually only ever read the first book in the trilogy. So I thought I would carry it on and then hopefully read Ruin and Rising next so that I can just sort of finish the trilogy, which if you'd seen my September TBR video, you know that about that anyway. It was still really interesting and I really enjoyed it, but it didn't have the same edge as the first book. But I would still recommend it, and I'm definitely still really looking forward to Ruin and Rising, which it is like the 11th of September and I haven't started yet. But I will, I promise. I promise I will. Get it read before the end of September. It's fine. So yes, definitely recommend this, and especially if you're obviously reading the trilogy, because you can't really read Shadow and Bone and then Ruin and Rising and just ignore the middle one. So I think it's just one of those, you know, middle books in a trilogy that sometimes just you have to kind of slog through. And it wasn't a slog through. I did read it fairly quickly. It just wasn't gripping as gripping as the first one. So it's a shame. So those are the books that I read in August. I hope that you have enjoyed some of those books, are going to enjoy some of those books. Do let me know in the comments what books you've read, what books you think you'll now read, because I've read them and I enjoyed them. Chat to me, it's fine. That's everything for me this week. I will see you again in another video. Alex is on Monday, Beth is on Wednesday. That's all. See you later.